Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to today's Ask a Professional Scrum Trainer webinar with Professional Scrum Trainer Punit Doshi. I'm Lindsay Velasina from Scrum.org, and I'll be your moderator today, moderating all your questions coming in. A few quick housekeeping items before we get started. Your microphones will be muted throughout, but that does not mean we don't want you to ask questions. That's why we are here. So please use the Q&A box on the Zoom platform to ask all of your questions. And I will be asking those to Punit throughout the session. Any that we don't get to, I will share with Punit and he will answer them offline afterward in some format. The session is being recorded, and the recording will be available as a podcast actually after the webinar within 24 hours, and you'll be sent a link to access that. So just a little bit about who Scrum.org is. We are the home of Scrum. We're founded by Ken Schwaber, the co-creator of Scrum, back in 2009. Our mission is to help people and teams solve complex problems by improving how they work through higher levels of professionalism. Our training classes are led by over 340 professional Scrum trainers around the world. We also have professional Scrum certification tests that allow people to validate their knowledge through our globally recognized certification. In addition to that, we have a lot of free learning resources on our website, including webinars like this. And other videos, blogs, white papers, case studies, things of that nature. So please check that out. We're really big on promoting your ongoing learning. And with that, I will hand it over to Punit to introduce himself.
Thanks, Lindsay. So welcome people, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for people who are joining from different zones. My name is Punit Doshi. I have overall of more than 20 years of experience, and a lot of that has been in IT space. I am working with non-IT domain lately more. I'm currently working with an oil and gas giant. I'm working for a procurement team as well. From those 20 years, I have more than 7 years of experience in agile space and implementing Scrum, and I really love it. It's been a very good learning curve with a lot of different kind of experiences. And at the same time, training is one part. I'm also an agile coach or Scrum master, whichever term suits for you. And more than about 60 to 70% of the time, I'm hands-on working with different clients, helping them inculcate new habits and improve their business agility. That's something I'm passionate about. I work with a lot of leadership teams and help them start working in new ways at the same time. I look forward to next 1 hour interacting with everyone over here and answering your questions. So please keep them coming, and I'll hand it back to you, Lindsay, if you would like to kick it off.
Yes, so it's time for questions. So please enter those questions into the chat box, and I will be asking those throughout. I'm actually going to stop sharing for now since we don't really have content here. And let's see. So, not sure. Okay, so this question comes from Vic. And what are the most effective ways you've seen Scrum teams answer the 3D question in sprint planning? How will you choose work to get done that leads to consistent delivery and meeting sprint goals by the team? There's a lot in that question.
Okay, I'm reading it. So Let me let me answer it. If it's sprint planning that we are talking about, I usually think of sprint planning for Scrum team to come together and discuss like, hey, if we are going to work in this sprint, what should be our goal to work towards? And that's the first discussion we need to have. That hey, why are we even working in this sprint? And to be able to like say that it was the time that we have spent worth it. What are the to achieve the goal for the sprint, what are the backlog items we are going to work upon? And for that, the way I usually start is I always recommend, as product owner, you should have entered the sprint planning meeting with a goal in mind, a candidate goal or a prospective goal, that what would we like to get out of this? Because we are going to spend money, we are going to spend time and energy working on something. Let's work towards what are the best areas we can our next sprint should be going towards. And based on that, the developers and the product owner can collaborate and start chalking out high level plan. What can we do to achieve, or what goal we want to achieve, and what are the product backlog items, and how are we going to achieve the goals? So first start with why, then with what, and then with how. It works beautifully that way. I've seen a lot of teams that would go for like, let's select the product backlog items first and figure out how we can deliver them. And then we collectively carve out what's the goal. When we go bottoms up, the tendency is to select randomly different product backlog items and work towards it, and you won't have a common goal. What would happen is most likely you may have some multiple different smaller goals that each team members or smaller subset of the team members would be working towards. So better it be top down, where we start with why even we work in the sprint. And based on that, we start with what should we do to achieve that why. And you discuss how do we want to achieve it later on. It works better. And in case towards the end, we figure out that the entire why is not possible, you may have a refined the actual sprint goal at the end. So hope that answers your question, Vic. Okay, next question.
Next question. So this is a sprint review question. How would you suggest handling sprint reviews where the developers do not want to speak nor present at sprint reviews?
Hmm. How do you want to handle a situation where developers do not want to speak? Now, as Scrum Masters, if I was in that situation, what I would be doing is, number one, start looking for the root cause. Why are the developers not speaking up? Is there some kind of culture of fear? Or are they is the sprint review looked upon as by stakeholders as a way to slam the developers if they are not doing a good job? If that's the approach that the stakeholders are taking, then for me as a scrum master, I would definitely like to coach the stakeholders and help them understand what's the purpose. For me, sprint reviews is about the scrum team and stakeholders collaborating to look at the increment and see how it's shaping up.
Right.
And the stakeholders, they are definitely welcome to give feedback on the increment itself. If there is anything that they are doing beyond it in terms of giving some kind of critical feedback to individuals, I believe that might not be good. If there is a critical feedback on the increment itself, more than happy to discuss that and see what we need to do next. Beyond that, I believe it is, if they are coming down heavy on the team, my worry is in that case, it is definitely going against the Scrum value of respect. And as a Scrum Master, I would like to talk to the stakeholders and correct that behavior sooner rather than later. If there's something else in terms of the developers are not sure how to interact with the stakeholders, it would be a good coaching opportunity for the scrum master to discuss with the developers to help them understand what kind of conversation they need to put into play with the stakeholders, which the stakeholders are able to absorb better what the developers are talking about. and the developers are able to give them the value for their time that they are spending at the sprint review. So it should be a win-win for both Scrum team as well as stakeholders. That's it from my side.
Okay, great. That should answer your question there, Kim. Um, this question comes from Esther. What should a definition of done contain?
Nice question. Now, this is it, there is no right or wrong answer over here. It depends on the domain in which you are in. If you are in software domain, your definition of done would be different compared to if you are in other domains. So, if I were to think of it from software perspective, let's assume that we are talking about software industry. For me, definition of done is a checklist of items that the developers would undertake to ensure that your increment is releasable, nothing less than that. So, for example, let's say that developers are working towards adding new product backlog, working on some product backlog items, which eventually need to be part of the increment. Well, some of the things we can think of, like, hey, do we need to do unit testing? Yes, great. Is there a way we can say, like, what's the percentage of code coverage we are looking for in unit testing? If you believe it can be added, go ahead, add it. Functional testing, yes, it works as per the expectation. Maybe if you are talking about, yes, now this functionality needs to be integrated with other functionalities. So is the integration testing done? That's the third one I can think of. Um, Regression testing, performance testing, code reviews, have they been done? Has product owner accepted the product backlog item? Right? You can think of all these activities, quality assurance activities, refactoring the code, just so we make sure that it is maintainable in the long run. So these are just some of the activities I can think of that I would list as checklist items that, yes, in my definition of done, when we as Scrum team, if we say that we have worked on this product backlog item and now it is going to be part of the increment, what all quality assurance work did we do to ensure that this is releasable, right? So hope that helps. Cool.
Great, thank you. Um, so here's a fun question. So should DevOps be a part of a product team like developers are and participating in the Scrum events? And then the same question, but for operations and support, should they be a part of a product team?
A great question. Great question. For me, the straightforward definition from Scrum Guide covers it all. Anyone and everyone needed to have a releasable increment needs to be part of the Scrum team. Let's go a little deeper on this, right? When we say DevOps, I'm not sure because DevOps means different things to different people. So I'm assuming you are talking about people who are working on CI/CD, if that's what we are talking about. I believe, yes, it would be great to have such skill set in your Scrum team. Why? Because eventually it is not the people who are just building features. It is also about how can we go from concept to cache as quickly as possible. If we have a requirement that we need to work upon, how can we streamline everything? That means we may have to have like continuous integration in place. We need to have continuous testing in place. We need to have continuous deployment in place. We need to have automated build, automated deployment, whatever it takes. If this is all the skill set you can think of that is needed for you to be able to move things all the way from writing the requirements till, if need be, one push button we can push to production. If that's the case, whichever skills are needed, please rope them in. And please, I want to carve it out. Your Scrum team composition can change as and when needed. Yes, it may impact the dynamics within the team, but say, for example, you need a database administrator or one's niche skills that is needed for a short time. That person can join the team for that time, ensure that the work is done from his or her side. And once things are going well, and now the person feel like, okay, my contribution is done. If there's nothing much needed, maybe I can contribute elsewhere for now. The person can be moved out or can move out of the team and rejoin again as and when needed. So whatever makes sense, as long as we come together and the team is able to deliver an increment which is releasable. And if possible, if we are talking about continuous deployment, like how a lot of technology giants are doing, if product owners gives two thumbs up, like, hey guys, if these features are working, I accept it, I like it, can we push it to production? And if we can make it like one push button to production, I believe that's an awesome team. So that, I hope this helps. Next
Great.
question.
So this question comes from Darren. Hi, Punit. I've been in oil and gas my entire career in a waterfall setting, and I'm now moving to a tech role as a delivery consultant. What would your advice be to a new agile delivery person?
Well, okay, great question again, Darren. So let me see how I can help you out. If you are saying that you are switching your career from one area to the other, the first thing you will need to do, if you are going into agile delivery, let's come to an understanding what agile delivery means, right? A lot of people, agile is one word which is thrown around every day, and if you ask different people what agile means for them, they will all have their own answers. First, let's understand what agile truly means for you. Secondly, you want to understand what agile truly means for an organization, right? So let's start with the basic, get the foundations right. And then afterwards, when you are moving into a technology role, I'm hoping and I'm sure you have a great technical skill set, and that's why you are, it's charges you up, and that's why you are moving there. Depending on what accountability you are going to pick up, you may have to figure out like, hey, if it's a delivery role, I'm going to be part of developers, then definitely you want to sharpen up your skill set in that area. Whether you are planning to be a scrum master, you may want to think about it that way, like, hey, as scrum master, how can I support the team? Whichever accountability you want to move towards, it would be great if you are able to find a mentor in that area who can spend time with you and who can help you in terms of growing into your role. That would surely be a great advantage, because if you are switching career without a mentor, you may end up having a little bit of more misses, unless and until you have a mentor. If you have a mentor, that person can definitely channelize your energy in the right direction and reduce the number of misses that you may have. But hopefully that would help. Um, and in case, Darren, I believe you already have my email address. If not, you can just send me a query on Scrum.org. I'll be happy to answer further questions for you.
All right, great. Thank you, Punit. This next one is a question around dependencies. So, what would you suggest as the right methods to handle dependencies, technical or people related,
Kalpak.
between the different Scrum teams?
Okay, coming from Kalpak, I know him. Hey, Kalpak, in one word, I can tell you this carefully. So, the way I would handle dependencies is, first and foremost, during the product backlog refinement itself, if the team is able to identify dependencies, it would be great if they are able to arrange their product backlog accordingly to reduce the in sprint dependencies as much as possible. Okay. If when you say dependencies, it can be within the team itself, I believe they can handle it beautifully amongst themselves because they are one team. If it is dependencies outside the team, uh, I can think of multiple things. Definitely, when you do your refinement, it would be great if you are able to do it a little ahead of time so that whoever or whichever team you are dependent on, you are able to keep them posted and level set, collectively come to an consensus what the agreement by when can we expect what, and based on that, you take things forward. The second part is if your dependencies are chronic, meaning your team is dependent on someone outside frequently with the same group of people, might be a pointer to the fact that your team is not cross functional, meaning they frequently have to rely on someone outside the team to get something done. And as Scrum Master, I would rather figure out a way so that the the team member or the person whom we have dependency on, how can we ring fence that person with the internal team or with this team. So we reduced that cross team dependencies. So hope that helps, Kalpa.
Great.
Next question. Yep.
Next question. This comes from Jeffrey. Please give some specific examples of 2 or 3 sprint goals for a project to implement a new customer relationship management system.
Okay. Can you repeat that again? Sorry, Lindsay.
So Jeffrey's looking for examples of 2 or 3 sprint goals um, for a project to implement a new CRM.
Okay, for a project to implement a new CRM, I do not have CRM experience. Uh,
Maybe some
I'm going
examples
blank out
of
here.
maybe some examples of building a good sprint goal would probably be
Yeah.
appropriate here.
So for me, a sprint goal would be something that solves your customer problem, or it can also be an experiment that you are planning to run. So, for example, in this sprint, we want to validate if the customers really need this feature, right? So this is what Amazon guys did for Alexa, right? They validated that people really look forward to having a functionality like Alexa before they even built it. And this is where you may want to think about different experiments. What can we do? And we can quickly validate in shortest time frame that if this is needed. That's one way to look at it. Or, for example, in this sprint, our goal is to enable our customers to pay online. For example, if that's the goal, then for that we may say like, hey, to pay online, you may have MasterCard payment, Visa payment, net banking. You may have other modes of payment. So these are the product backlog items we are picking up for this sprint. So based on that, think about in your areas, what is the goal? What is it that we are trying to solve for our customers? Or what is it that we are trying to do to help our customers? And it will point you to the right goal that you may want to come up with. So hopefully that helps. Um, as I said, I'm not a CRM expert. So hoping whatever I gave you as examples, you might be able to relate to, Jeffrey. Cool. Next question, Lindsay.
Okay, this next one, can we use agility and Scrum methods even when the firm is not willing to adapt the budget for testing at every sprint, etc.?
Even when the firm is not willing to adapt the budget for testing at every sprint. Anish, in your case, I suspect you would have a broken implementation of Scrum, and it's more of like what I feel is you will have a full-blown waterfall ways of working with Scrum terms bubble wrapped around it. And that's not a good sign, because if you are going to have testing become part, hey, we'll do testing toward the end. These are all I can call like undone work. Scrum has a really solid rule that every sprint you want an increment which is of release quality. It should adhere to done and it should be releasable. Let's understand the reason behind it. We have all worked on different product delivery, different projects, if you want to call it, and every time we work on these delivery work, what happens is when we continue pushing back on the quality assurance work like this further, it's like, kicking the can down the road. Hey, we'll do it later on, we'll do it later on. uh, the number of bugs, they start growing not linearly, but they grow exponentially. The longer you wait, what happens is they keep multiplying, because a lot of things are hidden under the surface now. So this undone work will pile up way beyond for you the longer you wait. And now, say toward the lag end of the delivery, we are like, hey, you know what, now let's do everything. We'll do regression testing, security testing, we'll do performance testing, we'll do this, we'll do that, and make it releasable. And when that happens, all these issues that are brushed under the carpet, they surface up. And when they start surfacing, it leads to a lot of team members working late hours, weekends, trying to scramble everything within that time. How is this different from our waterfall ways of working? Didn't we do something similar before? And now if we continue doing that in Scrum as well, I believe it is just water scrum fall. You're doing waterfall with Scrum terms bubble wrapped around it. So yes, I understand your situation. And this is where when someone asks like, hey, should DevOps be included? For me, this is where automation can play a great friend for you. If I put it this way, as a Scrum team, the developers and product owner, they need to come to come together and discuss about, hey, what are the things we can do sooner rather than later, so that we can automate our build, automate our integration, automate our deployment, automate anything and everything that can be automated. The sooner we do it, yes, for that it may mean that we may pick up fewer product backlog items related to the value we are trying to deliver to a customer. But the the more investment we make on these items earlier on itself, later on it may enable the Scrum team to deliver more value. If you don't invest in this, you do everything manually, it will come and bite you back, and that's when it will slow the entire Scrum team down. So figure out a way to coach your team, coach your leadership, to help them understand, like, if we are implementing Scrum and or working in Scrum, but we are going to follow our old habits, uh, how does that help us? Or it's we are not solving any of our problems, instead we are just skirting them. And it's is it worth it then, right? That's hopefully that helps.
Great,
Okay.
thanks. So we have a couple questions that came in that are different types of metrics related questions. This first one from Sapna, what are the best parameters that determine quality or value of the increment in each sprint?
What are the best metrics we can use for the quality of the increment? Hmm. I usually do not recommend just one. Well, one thing you can look at is your defect trends over time. Do you see the number of defects that are coming up, on month basis or weekly basis? Is it going down? If that's the trend, that means the quality of our increment is improving. If you are seeing that your product backlog is getting filled with more and more defects, that is a classic sign that we are not doing enough testing. Now, when I say quality, it can be two. One is the quality perceived by the customer, which means that are we solving the customer's problem? And secondly, are the bugs that we are thinking of. These are two things you want to be aware of. Quality can be of two kinds. One is the increment in terms of the software quality, and second is, are we solving the customer problem? Second one, if you want to measure it, customer satisfaction or net promoter score is the way for it. You will see if our net promoter score, is it going up or is it going down? What's the deal? If you see that, hey, over time we are seeing that we are getting more and more 5-star rating for our product, that is a good sign that as a product we are solving customers problem. So our quality, the product quality is great, we are able to meet our customers expectation and they are happy about it. If it is about the product quality in terms of the software or the product that we have built, internal quality, bugs, things like that, definitely you can use the defect trends. You can measure either your production issues, or you can, those would get reflected in terms of how many defects are being reported in the product backlog itself. If you are seeing that the product backlog, the number of tags that says defect is growing, might be a good idea to have a discussion with your Scrum team to say, hey, what are we going to do about it? How can we improve our definition of done to make it more stringent? And over time, we are able to improve the quality of the product. Hope that helps.
Great. This next question is more about metrics around Scrum team performance. So according to you, what are the best metrics to assess the performance of the Scrum team?
What are the best metrics to measure the performance of the Scrum team? Okay. I hope you are not going to use it for the year-end rating. If that's the case, then I would say do not measure it that way. If you want to know whether your Scrum team is doing great, uh, again, customer satisfaction or That's the best way to look at how this team is doing. It is not about the number of lines of code or number of features we are delivering. It is about, are we solving customers' problems? And if the customers are saying, like, you know what, we love this team, the product that they are giving us, time and again we see that the requirements, whatever we have, or the gap that we are seeing, that we wish we had this kind of functionality, they are giving it to us quickly, and they are giving it to us in the quality that meets our expectation, and it is solving our problem, reducing our stress, reducing the time we have to spend on certain activities. If the customers are giving you like, hey, two thumbs up for this team, you guys are doing fabulous, I wouldn't worry about any other thing. I would say, like, you have a great team. uh, that's the best way to measure if your scrum team is doing well. And in doing so, is your product doing well, right? You will get your answer. If ultimately, I would rather measure a team's performance on the business metrics, and
Yep.
we do not use it for year end. Please mark my words, do not use it for year end. It is just for the team to gauge themselves and say, like, could we do something else which would work out better for our business? And by doing that, we are able to see that customers are giving two thumbs up, and our revenue is growing over time if it's for profit. Hope that helps.
Great. So a couple questions around new Scrum Master. So someone's asking for advice for a new Scrum Master joining a new Scrum team. And then there's another question: what should a new Scrum Master look out for? What should their action plan be to help the organization and team?
Okay, if you're a new scrum master.
And then there's another one that came in that said responsibilities and good qualities of the best Scrum Master, please. So
Wow.
Scrum Master advice.
Thank you. So let's see how I can advise, or what advice I have for Scrum Masters. Okay, if you are a new Scrum Master, again, I'm going to point back to one of the previous answers. Since you are starting new, it would be great if you are able to get a good mentor, because being new, uh, you would like to get, you would like to hear from who's been there and done that, and what have they done. They can share their experiences. You can pick up from there, and you can start doing some activities from your side. That is one. Secondly, the other advice I can give you, if you're a new scrum master, be a lifelong, doesn't matter if, even if you're an experienced scrum master, be a lifelong learner. The more you learn, the more you'll realize how many gaps you have to fix in yourself. The other thing, if you want to, if you are joining a team for the first time, might be a good idea to have you strike a good rapport with the team, to understand individuals, their aspirations, to understand how the dynamics of the team are. At the same time, don't be too, what do you call it, on the face kind, where upfront itself you want to show them that you know scrum. Yes, remember one thing, as scrum master, it is about them, not you. It is not about you to prove that, hey, I know scrum better than you. It is about you being there as a servant leader, as a change agent, to look at things differently, to see if there is any way in which you can support the team, and bring a shift in their ways of working in a gentle way, right? So if the team is also new, a great thing to do is have some kind of team kickoff, a team liftoff, where you come together, everyone gets to learn more about each other, have some kind of casual conversation and understand each other's perspective more. Secondly, if the team is new also along with you, it would be great if you bring the entire Scrum team together, and allow the product owner to explain his or her vision about the product, the goal about the product, what is it that we are trying to achieve out here. So getting the buy-in from the team, on the developers on the product goal, would be a great win. What I tend to do usually when I join a team, if they are already working together longer, is I have more like tea, coffee, or casual conversations with them. If it's like going to a cafeteria where we can just grab tea, coffee, and just have a casual conversation, so that you get a pulse check of the team members. At the same time, you also uh, are able to understand the dynamics, and see what they might be expecting from you. It would be great to understand from them, like, hey, if I'm working in this team, what would you like me to help you with? Ask that question to them. They might give you some great insight. So start there, and slowly over time see how you can start bringing value to the table with your engagement with them. It may be doing team level coaching if need be. It may be like running really awesome retrospectives with them. It may be about collecting data, so that data points which is there, but no one is looking at it because they are too busy with the delivery work. You start collecting your facts on the table, and then when you talk to the team, back up whatever you want to talk to them, put the facts on the table and say, hey team, will is this going to bother you? Is this something that may be of concern for you? If the team says like, hey, it's not of any concern for us, it's okay. If the team says like, oh wow, we never looked at this might be a good opportunity, thanks for bringing it up, you know that you were able to bring that small change in their life. So start somewhere. Okay. I hope I gave you enough ideas to continue moving forward. Best of luck in your new role. Did I answer all the question, Lindsay, for
I
the
think
new Scrum
so.
Master?
I think
Okay.
so. If there are follow-up questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A. This next, so I'm trying to couple these questions because a lot of them are similar themes. So these next two questions are both around time boxing. So I'll read both of these. So this first one from Esther, we have a lot of problems with time boxing. They always run out of time, even though they create smaller pieces of tasks. How can I get a better commitment for time boxing? And then this other question is asking for tips and tricks for making successful time-bound daily scrums. A lot of times their daily scrum goes beyond a half an hour with 10
Mm-hmm.
people on the team.
Oh wow. Whoa.
Yes.
Half an hour, 10 people, 5 hours per day gone into daily scrum. Ouch. Okay, let's think about time boxing. Usually my approach is for any events, any meetings that the scrum team is coming together on. If there are topics where the team tend to go in circles, and we know that some team members can hijack the entire agenda, they keep talking about it. Yes, it might be valuable, it may be interesting, but then we are not coming to a consensus. uh, as a scrum master, I quickly just pop a question to team like, hey team, for this particular topic, that within the agenda itself there might be one smaller topic, like, hey, how much time do you want to spend on this? If the team says, hey, you know what, we want to spend 10 minutes on this, I'll say, okay guys, I'll start my timer, and I'll definitely like to, if it's in a room, I'll make sure that the timer, everyone can see it. Either it will be on my laptop screen, uh, or I can share my screen if it is across different locations if need be. But usually if it's across location, it's difficult. So because they most likely will be sharing screen. So I start the timer, and afterwards at around halftime, I do a quick gentle like, hey team, just a quick pause. We are half time or 5 minutes remaining. Do you want, I hope we are steadily progressing. So the moment you mention that at halftime, the team realize like, wow, we have spent enough time, oh, we better move forward now. And then they keep discussing, and toward the last couple of minutes of the 10 minutes, I say, hey guys, I hope we are wrapping this topic up. We having some concrete action items in place? Do we have like, who needs to own it? We start asking those questions, so that way the last couple of minutes they leverage to hammer out the next steps and close it. Usually this does the trick. In case there are some people who are talking and others are quiet, and I notice that in a group of say 10 people, only a couple of people are talking, another 8 are quiet, then I usually take a pause and ask the team, hey, does anyone else want to add to this topic? uh, and encourage others to talk more. So that way the people who are talking a lot, they also realize that, hey, it would be great idea to hear from others. So that's another thing I tend to do. For daily scrum, if your daily scrum is going beyond 30 minutes, beyond 15 minutes for that matter, for a team of 10, If you have 15 minutes should be good enough. What might be happening, which I suspect, is um, one is they may be doing some problem solving activity. They might be getting involved into like, hey, something like this is happening, and I'm dependent on you, and we they continue talking about their dependencies and starting to solve their problem. So what happens when two members are discussing about their problems and they want to solve with each other? Others will be like quiet. And I want you to understand, if it is between two people, individuals, rather than the entire team, might be a good idea for Scrum Master to say, hey guys, is it possible for you to take it after everyone else is done talking? So problem solving can happen after your daily Scrum is over. You can do it later on, so that way you do not consume everyone else's time. So people who are done with whatever plan sync up they needed to do, they know what they need to work upon for before the next daily Scrum. If they are all set, they can drop off the bridge, and people who need to hash out the solutions, only they stay back. So that way, no one's time is getting consumed in the area where they don't need to be. So that would be a good trick. So as a Scrum Master, you may want to coach them in terms of, number one, take the problem solving offline, right? The other thing which can happen, and I've seen sometimes, product owner starts attending the daily Scrum. And if that's happening, what tends to go forward next is the entire group of developers, they would be talking to the product owners rather than each other. And it becomes a classic status meeting. And that shouldn't be the case. So definitely, if you are the Scrum Master, you want to request the product owner, or coach the product owner to understand the purpose of daily Scrum. As a PO, should not be bothered about day-to-day tactical stuff. I would let the developers run the show and let them sync up the plan within themselves. Should not A product owner should not be engaged over there. That's the other aspect I can say. Hopefully this helps. Try it out. I'm sure, as Scrum Master, remember one thing: if you want to time box your events, it's not just about the event itself or the meeting itself. Within the meeting, if there are topics your team are discussing, time box those conversations as well. So that way, it is not taxing on other people's time who are like, why am I here then? Right. Hopefully that helps. Okay,
Great.
Lindsay.
So I had two questions here that are regarding the sprint retrospective. So this first one comes from Thomas. We are regularly running retros and identifying issues with an assignee and always ask if the issue is solvable for the team. Still, there's always a bigger issue behind that. Do you have a technique to get people to talk about their real issues instead of little things?
Hmm.
So
Great
getting people to
question,
open
Thomas.
up more.
Yeah. Great question, Thomas. Over here, you might want to think about different techniques like five whys, so that you go deeper into the issue. It's not just about knowing. You may have like some symptoms. Usually, what people tend to do is, based on the symptom, they come up with like, "Hey, what would fix it?" You may want to do like, why is this symptom happening? Go deeper. If need be, again, go for one more level of why. By answering at the most up to five whys, most likely you'll identify the root cause, and that can help you solve the problem. That's one thing. Second thing I can think of is, if there is always a bigger issue behind, it seems like there is some strong undercurrent in your team where there are issues, but people are not willing to surface them. If that's happening, a couple of choices or options I can think of. Number one, uh, leverage some kind of liberating structures, like you have the team come together and maybe anonymously first, or not even anonymously, they can write down what they would like to cover and pair them up. Maybe from the group, they may be able to form pairs of different pairs. Let them discuss with a smaller group. What I have seen is, in these small groups, like two, no more than three people in that group, people tend to speak up more. Especially, I have seen a lot of introverts who do not like talking in larger forum. They tend to talk better when it comes to smaller group, like 2 or 3 at the most. They will open up, and there, hopefully, they would be able to surface deeper issues, right? More issues, and let them speak up. The other thing you can think of is understand the dynamics of the team. Do you see that there are certain team members who tend to be like, the towering personalities in the group, and because of them, others are quiet? If you see such personalities, might be a good idea to connect with them one to one, so that when we go to retrospective, if there is a way for encouraging others to speak up first rather than the person who speaks a lot, and they can be a little bit quieter if need be for a retrospective, hopefully that might help. The other issue I've seen in retrospective, similar to what you are mentioning, the issues keep coming back again. Might be a good way for you to think what's going on. Like, if the issues are coming back frequently, I have seen as Scrum team who are enthusiastic, they tend to pick more than what they can, pull in one sprint. Like, hey, these are the areas we need to improve. Hey, we can improve 10 different things. Do you really think in one sprint you can improve on those 10 things and it becomes a habit also? You are trying to bite bigger than what you are able to chew. So I usually, if I see the same issues keep coming back again, I tend to ask the team, like, is our improvement sustainable? Are the improvement that we are trying to bring something that we can manage, right? If the answer is like, no, it seems like things are coming back, that means that we are not improving at sustainable pace. Might be a good idea to tell them, like, let's slow down. Let's take one small piece at a time and let's make it a habit. So that way, next sprint or in a little later sprint, it doesn't come back to us again. Hopefully that would help. I hope I have answered your questions on this.
Yeah, great. So a couple more questions around retro. You already kind of answered part of this, but how can we make retro more meaningful and even fun? And then someone asked for your favorite way to facilitate a retro.
Okay. Uh, there are plethora of ways you can run retrospectives. For me, the best I always liked are liberating structures. So, good part is you can also have like do it virtually. So if you have Zoom or Microsoft Team or any of the meeting tools which allows you for breakout rooms, it definitely works like a charm. So what I tend to do in retrospective, I go for 1, 2, 4 all, which becomes more like 1, 3 all, like that. So first I give people 1 minute or 2 minutes of quiet time where they can come up with like, hey, what are their observations? What would they like to talk about in that happened in the sprint? So I let them do it quietly individually. After that, I send them to smaller breakout rooms of like no more than 2 or 3 participants per breakout room, where they go in and they collectively exchange their notes with each other, duplicates, they remove it, and they come up with like, hey, top 2 items we would like to talk about. And then in larger forum, we talk about, hey, everyone will say, okay, here are the points we would like to talk about. We can do the dot voting and then come up with the top 2 items that collectively as a team we would like to talk about. That works good. um, the other thing I always do is, in retrospective, I've noticed usually criticizing is very easy, but thanking is difficult. So I always tend to end my retrospective with a thank you note where people thank others one to one. Not like, hey, I want to thank you all for the hard work. No, it has to be, hey, I would like to thank person ABC because she helped me out when I was in deep mess during the sprint. And truly, I want to call out this because in this sprint, if you weren't there, I would have been stuck. You give with citation and make it genuine. It really ends the retrospective with great ideas. So, Lindsay, I see you have already put a link. So, you might want to all check out this
Yep.
tastycupcakes.org. It's a great website with tons of ideas about different retrospective formats you can leverage. Go for it. The other thing I can think of for retrospective, if you are going into a retrospective as a Scrum Master, better go in prepared. I've seen a lot of Scrum Master for retrospective, they walk in, but they may not have any facts. It's more of like they go in blank. They just go in and having the same damn format of what went well, what can be improved upon, and what to do next. It sucks. Change your format as frequently as possible. Leverage tasty cupcakes. You have great ideas over there, and make it engaging. Make it so that everyone can talk. Leverage liberating structures if need be, and trust me, I've leveraged it so many areas in different formats. It works beautifully. Instead of answering those three questions like that, we change with very different arrangements, so it encourages people to think differently. And liberating structures would definitely help you engage the wider audience. Cool. Thanks, Lindsay.
Great. Awesome. So hopefully that was helpful. We have time for one or two more questions here. Our hour is certainly flying by. This question is a product owner related question. What advice do you have for a product owner for ordering the product backlog items?
Okay. Now, in terms of ordering the product backlog items, I usually suggest to the product owner, go ahead with any of the product backlog items that you believe are high value. They are smaller in size. If you have you refined it along with the team to make it like smaller in size, and it is also having high risk, because as product owner you want to mitigate your the feature risk as soon as possible. So that way we know that, hey, did this feature solve a customer problem or no? The more quickly you can mitigate by running experiments to see, are we building the right product, the better for you. There are different formats people use after that. So this is one thing I can say, like, hey, high value, high risk, and small in size that we know we can start with. Anything which is high value, low risk, and small in size, definitely you want to finish it off next. So mitigate your risk first, and then go for high value items which are low risk. A lot of people go for different formats like must have, should have, great to have, or could have. You can go for that as well. There is another model you can take, Kano model, that also works better. For me, it's always, this is one approach. The other approach I have seen which works good is what we all know of as a marketplace. Over here, we can think of, as a product owner, you know what kind of features or product backlog items you would like to deliver, right? You can bring the stakeholders into a meeting, and then you can lay out all the features in front of them. You can give them an explanation what each of these features do. Again, this is like fake currency. They buy a feature, so you give them all, say, $500, and you say that, hey, you have $500, you have to consume all $500 on these features. How would you distribute your money on these? So let the stakeholders figure out where would they park their money into. Like, hey, this feature, one stakeholder would say, this is very important, I would put more value in this, less value in this, and they can distribute their $500. Once all the stakeholders are done, sum up the money on each of the features. You know which feature has the highest dollar amount assigned by collective stakeholders. Seems like this is very important, would go on top. The next, so you already have an order. That's another approach you can take. Now there are plenty of other approaches. Like, you can think of how we have planning poker for estimating the size of work. You can do business value poker similarly, where stakeholders, you have your business value card, and collectively you do the business value pokering for the features. That's also a great approach. So go for any of these that you believe is valuable. Uh, it would work. Any of these can work. Cool.
Okay.
Lindsay. Mhm.
All right. So I think we have time for one more. This question comes from David. I feel like this is something that folks probably run into often. If one or two team members are absent from sprint planning, do you see a significant problem with adding their tasks to the sprint later? We know it impacts sprint performance, but what other issues should we be careful of with this?
David, this is a good question. I wonder if the team members are regularly absent or is it one off? If it's one off, your approach would be fine. If it is happening regularly, the deeper question to ask is, do people feel that sprint planning is, valuable for their time? Are we running our sprint planning effectively, right? So think about it from that perspective. For me, I don't care about velocity or any of these things. But during the sprint planning, if the Scrum team is coming together and they decide on the goal that we want to achieve in this sprint. So if you have a goal that you want to achieve, and for that you selected certain product backlog items, if team members are missing, then the question is like, hey, when they come in and say like, hey, you added these items and seems like we need to work on it, but we don't have capacity, you know what, we don't know how to solve this problem, why weren't we consulted? This is where your sprint planning will eventually fumble later on. So it would be great for the team members to join. If they cannot join, if it's one off and they can pick up the items later on, it's okay. I think once in a while it's okay, provided there is a valid reason for them not to join. If the team members are skipping it, believe it would be a great idea at the end of the sprint as a scrum master to see if, ask this question to the scrum team like, hey, are we seeing some issues with our sprint planning? Hopefully someone will take the bait and say like, yeah, it seems like we had some surprises during the sprint and we weren't happy about it. Now you start with the conversation with them to see, hey, how do we want to fix this problem, right? So don't think about sprint planning as a way to for the team to assign tasks to each other or themselves. It's more of the team to come together and come up with like, hey, what is the problem we are going to solve in this sprint? And to solve that problem, what approach should we use? As long as they are doing it, they are achieving it regularly, I think you have a great sprint planning, right? So David, I hope I have answered your question, because this yes, if the team members are not able to join the sprint planning, it can impact your actual sprint also later on, and hopefully you are able to fix it to the root rather than this becomes an ongoing, what do you call it, business as usual. Shouldn't be working that way. Okay, Lindsay, back to you.
Okay, fantastic. So we got through about 21 of your questions. We still have quite a few open. Punit, I will share those with you after
Sure.
this, and then you can address them individually or through a blog post, however you would like to address them. I
Sure.
want to thank you all for your participation today. We had a very active audience, which was great. I hope you all got some good tips out of this. And please feel free to continue your learning with our free resources on the Scrum.org website. We also have digital learning paths that can help you on your learning journey as well. And I want to thank you, Punit, for your time today. I think the audience got some great value out of this.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thank you all. I hope I can close the answers which I get from Lindsay later on. But take care of yourself. Be safe. Thank you.
Take care, everyone, and Scrum on. Bye.
See ya.